guys. So hopefully you can hear me. I'm gonna make sure my settings are good. Change that. And yes. Okay, that should be better. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. Just felt like doing a little live chat thing real quick. Nothing big or fancy. I haven't really done these very much lately. But yeah, I'm going to pull up the little chat here. That's why you hear me typing. I'm excited to do this. All right. I'll probably talk a little bit about my homebrew. I won't go too in depth because I don't want to give too much away. But I'm going to make my homebrew world is going to be a PDFs. You can download the PDFs. They will be in various places. You'll be able to go find them over in the Master the Game Facebook group, which we have about 200 members. It's a pretty active community. We have some regular conversations in there. If you're a part of it, feel free to start a thread if you want. It's for all of us to communicate and get gaming advice in a non-judgmental way, and just have some fun with each other. So use that resource. It's another place where you can communicate with some people and stuff like that. So you'll see I have a stack of binders. I actually picked up 3 new binders today for PDFs because I like to print my PDFs out and then do my thing. Lately I've been reading Kobold Guide to World Building, which I have not applied much of it to my homebrew world yet, but I do plan on doing that. I've been carrying around this stack of things for a while now, but obviously I've been referencing this Kobold Guide to World Building, John For's RPG Tips, which if you aren't a member yet, go over to his website. I think it's roleplayingtips.com. Go over to his website and subscribe to his newsletter. You get a couple good things, I would say a week. At least it used to be a couple things a week. I don't feel like it's been that frequent lately, but good stuff. So something else that's going on is I will be reviewing, by the guys over at Absolute Tabletop, I will be reviewing the Be a Better Weapon Master 2. That will be coming up hopefully in the next week or so. I have to read it still. I haven't read it yet. I've just skimmed through it, and it looks very promising. I like what I've seen so far. So, in fact, I'm just cleaning this up right here because I make I make these binders focused on certain things. So, but yeah, I will hopefully be reading that on the next couple days, and then I will get my green screen up, hopefully. Maybe not. That might not be up in time. But then I will be doing the review for that. I'm also going to be doing a review for DMG, which you would know him from 70 System. You might know him from the Tabletop Crafters Guild. I will be doing a review about this. This is a supplement he released a while ago, a couple years ago. And I have a copy. I actually have 2 printed copies. One's black and white. This one's in color. The black and white one is in spiral bound. And then my colored one isn't. It's kind of backwards. But yeah, one thing is that I haven't done, I haven't ran it because, again, I like to use miniatures, and the terrain, I don't have all the pieces. So that's the reason I have not ran that yet. I have maps. I could draw the maps out, but yeah. So anyways, those are the 2 things you can expect to happen on my channel very soon. Also, if you haven't subscribed yet, go over to Master the Game. You can subscribe there. Master the Game is a YouTube channel about optimization, but it's not just for players. It's not trying to teach people how to break games. I just want to make that very, very clear. As a player, if you're optimized, I think as long as you don't abuse certain things, like spam certain spell combos or whatever, then there's no reason that it shouldn't be allowed. Be conscious of what you're doing to your game as a player. Now, As a dungeon master, there will be tips on how to handle certain things. There will be encounters where, you know, maybe it's monster combinations mixed with traps, mixed with terrain, all those different things. There will be tactics. All of these things I plan on talking about over on Master the Game. We will start based on 5th edition. Eventually, if I move on to another system as my primary system, that will be the system we talk about. But for now, it will be, it will be 5th edition. Now, this binder right here is my homebrew world. I'll show you some of the things that are in it. I did this on in Master the Game. I did a live chat the other day where I did this. And, some people seem pretty interested in it. Oh, by the way, I should go share this in the group. So hang on one second. Let me go over there. Let people know that I'm doing this. And that way maybe they'll come and join me. So just going to mention live over on YouTube. I love my group. Like I said, I've made some good connections there. We're at 199 members right now. So that's pretty awesome. I'm pretty excited about those numbers. Excited about those numbers. The best part is, like I said, these are all people I talk to regularly, mostly because they are friends. They're also, just because they're so active in the group, some of them have just become friends over time. So that's one of the best things I can say about this community. I've made a lot of friends, and I appreciate that. Any given day, I can talk to somebody about tabletop RPGs, and that's awesome. So just want to mention how appreciative and thankful I am for that. So I got a couple games I'm currently playing and running. I'm playing in A Tomb of Annihilation over on Roll with Advantage. It's run by DM Death. Many of you may have heard of that persona. It's a DM persona. May have heard about it in videos a while back where a lot of people voiced their opinions of that. Also, I am playing in a game run by my wife called The Adventures of Thakos, I believe is what it is. Can't remember. Don't kill me. It's in Thakos. And it's the Dragonspire Keep is what we're trying to get to right now, I believe. We haven't played it in over a month. This past month was pretty busy. I'm hoping on the first or second week of January, we'll get back and play that Friday, because it's a lot of fun to play in that campaign. So, but yeah, and then I'm running a homebrew all Elven campaign where I'm mixing in some module stuff, but it's in my homebrew world. But I'm mixing in the Sunless Citadel a little bit. It's not verbatim. I'm probably not even going to use the maps exactly or anything like that. But the concept of it, I'm basically stealing. So you can expect to see that as well over there. Now, Wolfden808, welcome to the chat. Yeah, so that was just me kind of discussing what I have going on at the moment. But I do want to talk about my homebrew a little bit. My homebrew has a lot of stuff. Every game I've run in 5th edition since it came out has taken place in my homebrew. I've got notes from campaigns and one-shots. These are my campaign folders. And I'll show you. So every time I start a campaign, I take a folder like this. And it's got the tabs in the middle that I can put through clear sheets. And then what I do in the first pocket when you open it, that's my DM stuff, my DM notes. The sleeves are also DM notes, or in this one I had tables. I tried tables for the first time in these sleeves. But usually it's my campaign outline and things like that. And then the last pocket is where I keep my player character sheets, any handouts I've given to them. Because in fact, I think all my players in yeah, almost all my players give me their character sheets to keep and hang on for the next session. And so when we have it in something like this, it's easy to not lose it. Now, in here, you'll see the first thing I have is a map of my world. This was an old one I did in Photoshop like 5 years ago using Skyrim icons. This is a more zoomed in one where it was an area that wasn't fleshed out until I started the campaign, so I started drawing in the map stuff. There's the same kind of deal. One of them was the player one was mine, but this was how it started. It was empty. Obviously, I've added to it. This was just a little like jotted down notes for a general area map. This is a module from Wylock that I was planning on running at some point if they went a certain direction. They did not. Here is an old campaign outline from a different game that I was going to use some of these things to cross over into this game. I have a settlement sheet, which if you want to download these, I have them over on rpgjuice.com. If you click on Tabletop Gaming with Juice, there's a tab that drops down and you can go to Downloads. That'll be there, and it's got different things that you can put in there to quickly flesh out your stuff. I've got settlement sheets over there, encounter sheets, all sorts of stuff. Some loot trackers, and then more lists. So this actually is not a good. In fact, this campaign didn't really get off the ground. It was only a couple sessions. It has some notes in here though, so I'd like to use those and keep those. But that's the gist of what I do with those. Now, some other stuff I have. Do I have an updated map? I have portions of the world that are more updated. I'll show you one here in a second in here. I don't have a finalized one of the whole world yet. I'm hoping to have one soon. You can't see it, but back on this desk, I've started drawing one of the continents. I have another one that was drawn by Nate WAST20 back when he was playing in one of my games. When I lived in Grand Rapids, like 2 miles away from him. He actually drew that for me. So this is a faction of mine. It's called the Anvil Ringers. This is a quick one-page blurb that when I have players that were interested in it, I gave them this so they kind of understood the gist of who the Anvil Ringers were. Oh, Neftali, maybe sometime you can. I know you mostly play Palladium, correct? Do you play 5th edition? But yeah, so there's the Anvil Ringers stuff. So that's one of my favorite things. I actually have more pages about this. I have about 5 pages. So, hey, Robert, welcome, buddy. This was a map of a game I played in that I asked the DM if I could put it into my world somewhere, and he actually said yes. So I've actually hung on to this, and I plan on using it. Some of the stuff we encountered here was a cursed mound, a shrine to one of the deities. We had all sorts of stuff happen here. Goblin mines. A wizard tower. The Caves of Chaos were put in here. There was a hermit. I think there were some ruins that had like leaves covering a secret door. But yeah, that was always cool. Right now, I'm not, by the way, Neftali, I'm not running any online games at the moment. My current game I'm running is at home. However, I will probably, and I'm hoping in 2018 to run a few more one-shots and maybe even a campaign at some point. It just kind of depends on what my workload looks like. I'm a realtor, so sometimes I get really busy. Like right now, I'm overwhelmed with buyers. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have 11 buyers that are kind of active. Some of them are more active than others. Others are kind of just waiting for the right house. So I have a lot going on at the moment that I think will translate into spring, and hopefully I stay busy. But if I have some downtime and things are going well, I will probably free up to do maybe an online campaign. I have only run, well, I guess it didn't last. So I would say I've ran 0 online campaigns. I'm playing in an online campaign. That's a lot of fun, though. This was a map from the Caves of Chaos that the players drew, which I have the module from D&DNext, the playtest. But yeah, I like the little tree. I don't know. I will probably do a ripoff of the Caves of Chaos for my homebrew setting. Not trying to make money off my homebrew setting at all. Pretty much, I think I'll put it up as like a pay what you want kind of thing. And if people choose to throw extra, if they like it enough or something, that's cool. But it's not a big deal. And I was also thinking I might release it in just different portions rather than a whole big thing. But eventually for my home groups, I'd like to get them printed. Like I'll buy one for myself as a print on demand, but I'll probably make them print on demand. And so if anybody in my home groups or anyone playing in my campaigns online or anyone who wants to run it could just get it and do it. I know nothing about the cost. I don't know how to set it up yet, but that's kind of like my idea. This was a character I played in 2nd edition. He's going to be in my homebrew world somewhere. Let's see. Nothing important. Nothing important. Oh, okay, this was cool. This was in that campaign I was talking about. So when we were playing with that character that I just had, we went into these ice caves, and this is not the ice cave. This is the ice caves. There was a undead dragon, and this was all water too. That was the other thing. So we had to like go on a boat, which was not good for any of us. And the current, we were at the mercy of the current and things like that. So that was a lot of fun. So I have that. I'll probably put that in my homebrew. Yeah, I've been, Palladium was my first love. It got me, I got into it. Heroes Unlimited was the first game I ever played, and that was back in '97. I posted it on my public Facebook page. We were having a conversation. I tagged the guy who got me into it. He's an older guy. I think he was in his mid to late 20s when I was like 12. Me and a friend used to go over and play. The guy was a friend of the family, so it wasn't like it was a random stranger. But we made characters in Heroes Unlimited. I was a glass alien who, at the time, I was really influenced by pro wrestling. And so Sting, and I still like pro wrestling, but Sting, the crow Sting, became the look of my character. And within a session or two, we ended up going through a rift and in rifts, which I didn't really want to play rifts. I wanted to play Heroes Unlimited, and we did that, and it was still fun. From what I remember, obviously I stuck with it and was interested forever, but I don't think it was how I envisioned that campaign going. We ended up moving really shortly after that. So I moved one place, my other friend moved the other direction, and then he and the DM and his wife, or GM and his wife, moved to another place. I think they moved out to Coldwater, which was like an hour and a half away. So we all went different directions, and we never played again together. In fact, I don't even talk to my friend that played with us. In fact, I talked to him maybe one time after he moved and never again. But I do still talk to the guy who got me into it. We haven't played a game or anything. He lives locally now. But yeah, I've invited him, I think, a while back. It just didn't happen. But either way, and in fact, throughout high school, I couldn't find a group. I knew people playing D&D. I tried to join them. They were full. And they were. It was like a bunch of neighborhood kids that lived in a different neighborhood. But it was like they were all related or dating each other. Just this big, weird mix that I could never break into. They didn't let me in. But I was friends with them all. In fact, the only thing I ever did after that is I played online with people for Palladium over on the chats, and I tried play by post at one time. So yeah, this is nothing useful. Here's another map from one of the campaigns we had. I did not draw these maps. These are maps that I think my wife did the mapping for, but I'll probably use those into my homebrew world at some point. In certain places. This was an encounter we had. Here's my wife's character, which I still have that sheet. Yeah, I like doing live stuff. Welcome, Numbing Disaster Anon. Interesting name. But yeah, so there's that. So I'll probably put her character in. Basically, I like to, even if my campaigns fizzle out, I like to make the player characters into the canon. You know, I like to continue to tell their story based on where I thought they would have went. If, you know, say I had a group and, you know, we moved away and we never played together again. If their character was alive or whatever, I like to work it in there into the story because I just think it gives something for me to remember, and I feel like it's a nice tribute to the old player groups. So, all right. So someone asked if I had newer stuff. So this was done by Nate from WASD 20. He has his own company. He does commissions now. But he was a player in my group when I lived in Grand Rapids. He lived like a mile or two away. And yeah, so he did this. Now, I originally, so this was done about 2 years ago. About 4 years ago, I did a live chat like this, or maybe it was just I recorded it. And I made this. This was my Orcs Arrow Peninsula. It was just rough notes for a campaign. It wasn't meant to be anything huge, but it was just something I did on a live chat. There's an old video talking about ideas related to this. This then turned into a campaign that then one of my players made this out of. And this is sweet. He's worked with Absolute Tabletop. He's done, I think he helped them with their Be a Better Campaign Master supplement. So here it is. Actually, I might even have his company name in here now. Let me look. I'm sure it's in here. Cover art, interior art, Nate Vanderzee, Sellsword Maps. So if you're interested in the art like that, go. Yeah, don't worry about my Patreon. Ignore the Patreon for now. I'm not doing anything with it. Just don't do it yet. In fact, I should probably just go and make it impossible to do anything with right now. Hopefully in a few months or something, I have something worthwhile. I mean, unless you just want to give me money. If you want to just give me money, that's cool. I'll probably put it towards my channel. But oh man, this is too tight. I need to separate some of this stuff out. But in this, you'll see he's done this. Obviously the same style as my personal map. So yeah. Oh, thanks, dude. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Cool. So there's that. But yeah, so that's Nate from WSD20. He did this based on this. It's not exact, but I like his a lot. And I told him to use some creative liberties, and he did. And I really like it. So I'm trying to draw my own, or draw the rest of my world myself in this style. So, and it's inspired by him. He's really good. So just wanted to point that out. In fact, his campaign in my group was the second longest. We played for, I don't know, 7 months maybe. It was probably the second longest one. So I've typed up some of the stuff about my world. You can see right here, it's Orcs Arrow Peninsula. I've got some sticky notes with some notes on them. Oh, those are just like references to different books I need to read. But in here, so I have like an introduction that is a page and a half. 2 pages. Page and a half, 2 pages. Just talks about different ways to use the world in case anyone, because again, I'm going to make this a download. Don't know when, but just on different ways you can do it, ways you can reach me if you need more information, things like that. And then my idea on the organization of it. Now, the thing is most of this is here so that I have a guideline to stick to for myself. So, oh, hey, Clay. I didn't even know that was you, man. Take it easy. But yeah. What did he say? That's some nice stuff. We'll have to keep them in mind for when I really get to work on some of my own stuff. Love to get some official maps. Yeah, no, he's good. I think last time I talked to him about what he had going on, or I really noticed, I think he said he was booked for like 3 months on maps. So you'd have to ask him. Maybe that's different now. But yeah, so anyways, my Orcs Arrow Peninsula that I was just talking about, I have in here, it's very general, but I have paragraphs about different portions of what's in there. So for example, I have a paragraph about the City of the Ancients, a paragraph about the Western Dwarven Territory, a paragraph about the North and South Savage Mountains. And then I go into a little bit more detail about different things, like the capital city, facts, population, who the ruler is. I actually touched on, for 5th edition, the core classes. So clerics, rogues, wizards, fighters. For example, the fighters here are mostly guards, but the City of Ancients doesn't have a strong army that is highly skilled and made up of mostly fighters. Again, this stuff is all rough, very rough, needs a lot of work. But I touch on some important places, some adventure hooks. And I do that throughout this. I mean, I've got, pages of stuff like that. So that's that part. Then I've got another portion that's a little bit higher. This is where Nate's campaign took place right here, was near Brower Hans, Pine Run, Eagle View, Kyton, Manderton, Windham, all sorts of good stuff in here. Some cities they never visited in the area. Sandstrom, which Pine Run and Sandstrom have okay write-ups, nothing too great. Yeah, I've really gotten into world building a lot more the last, I'd say, 4 years for sure. That's the one thing I get suckered into with DMing or even RPing in general. How do you fine-tune your homebrew world? I'm having a hard time transitioning from the macro to the micro. I have big ideas, but struggle with making the world seem realistic. So I would recommend, if I were you, I'm much like you. I like epics, and so I think big and then work my way in. But that's why I've tried to read more about homebrew or world building. Kobold Guide to World Building is fantastic. I've read almost the whole. I've skimmed the whole book. I've read 60 pages. So I have it in PDF, but it's, how many pages is it? I read this almost every day. I'm up to page 58, and it has some really good tips. There's also something, I don't know if you know who Sean Patrick Fannin is. So there's 114 pages in here. Sean Patrick Fannin is a writer. He works for Evil Beagle, or he owns Evil Beagle Games. He's written for Savage Worlds. He did the Savage Rifts Kickstarter. He's done Shine Tar was one of his settings. He's done a lot of stuff. Anyways, and he's been in the industry for like 20 or 30 years. Anyway, so I asked him, actually he mentioned in a world building seminar I went to at a convention that he had a free thing if anyone wanted it. It had some guidelines and tips from a class he taught about world building. And so I obviously emailed him. He sent it to me. And it has some good tips in that as well. Figure out, one, why you're doing a homebrew world. That was like step one, I believe. As Numbing Disaster says, build it around the people. That's 100% true. Kobold Guide to World Building, the thing I've gotten from it so far is build the world much is based on what you know about the real world, you know, and that doesn't mean rip off like everything, but it means like the physics, the reality of how rivers flow, the types of like where a desert lies. So you figure out that, right, on the macro level. Then, because again, that's how you appear to like to do it. Then, based on that, where are your resources? Where's your water? Where are your mines? Where's the vegetation? Based on that, that's where your settlements should be. You know, once you've got where your cities are, you then decide, okay, where's your major cities? Where are your minor cities? Like, where are your coastal cities? You know, coastal cities might not have access to farms, but they have access to fresh fish. They have access to be, you know, to trade. So you do that, and then based on that, you can start telling a story about those places. Oh, okay, this place is between the coast and the mountains. There's not a lot of food, right? So obviously they get all their stuff by trade. Well, what could they offer from the mountains? Maybe they get gold. Maybe they get iron. They also fish. So those are things they could trade with a more rural establishment to get grain or to get meat. Or something you could do is add a different type of, not monster, but a different type of animal that maybe, you know, lives on the side of the mountain or can graze off of very little and, you know, whatever. There's all sorts of things you can do. But, you know, build the story around the individual cities, go even smaller into the individual people. And that's what I've kind of gathered from that, from reading that. You know, I like to build from the macro in as well. So yeah. More characters I've played, notes from different games. Again, I will be working them into here. Another campaign folder. Actually, no, this is not a campaign folder. I'm sorry. This is from old 2nd edition games and Pathfinder games that I have both ran and played in, and that my wife also has done. So I'll be using those notes. This is something you can download a version of on my RPG Juice website as well. It's a campaign sheet. What it is when player characters are created, I fill this stuff out, and it has all their info, basically, all the mechanical info. That helps me when I'm building encounters, including. Oh, sorry, I should probably read some of this. Thank you for the good advice. Awesome advice. Hey, no problem. I have too many ideas for homebrews. Yeah, I sometimes I'll be over here with an idea, and then all of a sudden I get an idea over here. So I understand your pain. Including a way out there origin for the world itself that trips people out sometimes. Yeah, so that was the other thing. So the Kobold Guide, I think it was the Kobold Guide, talked a little bit about what people tend to like. Most people tend to like high fantasy over gritty fantasy. A lot of DMs, like the grittier fantasy. But usually grittier fantasy is more normal, whereas high fantasy is more fantastical and, it's out there. So I thought that was interesting. And obviously it's not telling you what to do. It's just saying, depending on what your reasoning is for building your world, these are things to consider. So I agree with that. I used to want to make something more deadly, more normal, and I think I'm going more high fantasy lately, so which is easy to change to. It's harder to go from high fantasy not the other way. So that's not helpful. That's not helpful. Some stuff in here is just campaign notes I just threw in here that aren't really helpful to this. This one I think is from notes from a game I ran. Yeah, more notes. A lot of these are encounters too, so I wrote out like monster hit points and stuff. So again, aren't useful, but I'll just leave them in here for now. Okay, so this has some notes about a city called Gazimir, which is a dwarven city. So I will be keeping this, which is good because then again, I can always go back to this and go, oh yeah, that's where we were playing in this part of my world. So this is the type of monsters that are out there. So I can create a random encounter chart for my homebrew. Got some magic items that I made up on this page. My lunar maul that only gives any abilities when the moon is out, basically at nighttime. So it's a really good guard weapon if you're doing camps during the night. Okay, here is the sheet I made. I ran a game for Dawnforged, David Friant from Nerdarchy, SR2 Joker, and Samuel Larson. And this is our Orcs Arrow game. And so I have notes about our characters there, so that's cool. I would like to describe the homebrew origin, but that would involve a lot of messages. Do it. No, just do it. Try to simplify it, but you could do it. I'll read it. I'm interested in that kind of stuff. This is an old campaign sheet I used to use. I still have it. It's up for download. So this is for every session. You would print this out. The top right here says, where are the players at the start of the session and where are they possibly going? So this tells you where you're at and where you're trying to go with the campaign to keep it on track. You might not get there. The players might go off the rails. That's okay. The next section right here says, what are the goals of the session? What do the players hope to achieve? What, if any, side quests might the players acquire in this session? And what will the players face leading to the encounter? So again, it's to help you stay focused, with your campaign. So it doesn't just feel like the players are just doing whatever. Down here, I left it, there's like a lot of blank spaces. So you could say the monster type or NPC type, their AC, their hit points, speed, languages, and then their attributes. And then up here, if there's more than one, I put like 1, 2, 3, 4, however many. Underneath that, it says special abilities, for example, multi-attack or a leap attack. I have attacks or spells, and then notes about them. maybe they run if they're outnumbered. This one says that these orc archers were searching for dragon's eggs. So different notes in there. And then at the bottom here, I said, where are the players at the end of the encounter and where are they possibly going? So each one of these could be an encounter or whatever. So you can do it however you want. And then the very bottom is, how have the players' actions changed the story moving forward? So these last two are kind of something you would normally fill out at the end of a session. And that'll help you when you do your next session. Something else I do is I put notes on the back of the page. So that's always helpful. So that's good. Back to my settlement sheet. Settlement sheet has the name of the city, the population, the government, notable NPCs, locations and stores, groups or factions, city features or landmarks. For example, this is Two Rivers, Laketon, and it's large wooden crowded statue, or I'm sorry, crawdad statue, not crowded. And then at the docks or the pier, you have a dock for every single house in the city. I have a section for special items, tavern menu foods, tavern menu drinks, tavern menu services, minor hooks and rumors, medium hooks and rumors, major hooks and rumors, random encounters, a job board, a bounty board, and a charity board. Not all cities will necessarily have those, but just in case they do, that's how my sheet is set up. All right, let's see what you have said. All right, the universe starts off with nothing, a big old black abyss of nothingness. The only creatures around are immortal star gods that pretty much did nothing themselves. Just spent eternity floating around, breeding, and so on. Then one star god thought, screw this mess, this is boring and maddening. And then he killed himself to spare himself existence. A star god had never died before. The death resulted in giving out a large explosion that attracted the others' attentions. When they looked on his corpse, they saw raw magical energy, primordial stuff. When they saw this, they all pretty much, at the unifying thought that surmounted to, let's stick our dicks into this, and began messing with all the magical energies to form creations. The result is the world itself, with the elements, planes, races, and so forth. Whenever you look up to the night sky and see stars, those are immortal creatures looking down at you. I think that gives a good explanation for a world, for the start of a world. Every religion is the result of a star god wanting something out of the mortals, typically entertainment. Interesting. So I've toyed with different ideas for religion in my world. Part of the thing I want is for a player to come to the table and be able to create a god, to play with whatever they want. Maybe they want to use a real world religion. Maybe they want to use something from Forgotten Realms. Ultimately, I want them to be able to do it. It's almost like I want religion to be like it is for us. You're not a choice necessarily. It depends on what you believe, but you can believe in whatever you want in my world, right? Does not mean you do or do not have access to certain magic or things like that. I almost want all clerics, paladins, things like that to be faith-based. And so if you believe it, you can do it kind of thing. It's almost like a willpower thing. I've also played with the idea that all magic, including those, are actually tied to and in the world, they won't know this. They'll think it's tied to a religion or a faith, but it's all actually centered around astrology. So that explains the magic, spells per day and things like that. I've also toyed with the idea that, okay, maybe, I use mana points similar to hit points, and try and maybe do my own mechanic for that. And so you can either take an average or you can roll for it. So for example, if you did that, wizards would have a D12 mana die, hypothetically. Warlocks would have a D6 mana die. And then you can either take the average or roll for it every level. And that's how you earn more. But I'm toying with that idea. I don't know. I haven't, and that's probably a flaw I would say right now with my homebrew world, because I run campaigns in it. So when we do it and people ask me about the deities, I say, well, what do you want? They go, well, what do you have? I say, whatever you want, dude. If it's a real world religion, I don't usually tell them that, but I say, if it's Forgotten Realms that you want to use, that's fine. If it's Norse, if it's Greek mythology, whatever, go for it. So that's how I normally do it. Also have a gimmick involving the world, magic, and races, mostly a generation's long degeneration, where the original magic source is weakening, and as a result, all the races are degenerating. It almost sounds a little bit like Dark Sun. I've never played Dark Sun. I haven't read a lot, but I've heard things like it. It almost sounds like the beginning stages of something going towards that. For example, one of the first races were dragons, but eventually they died out and gave birth to drakes. And now drakes are dying off. They gave birth to Draxons, basically dragonborns. Now Draxons are giving birth to kobolds because they are degenerating. I think that sounds interesting. It's not something you see very often. I don't think there's anything difficult about what you've come up with. I think that sounds like it could make sense. So, I don't see any problems on the surface. This is Black Lake notes, more Black Lake notes. The Iron Forest, which was a game that I killed, I think, most of the players at the end with a Baylor. In fact, Taking 20, Cody Lewis talked about how that was the only campaign I think he's died in. Or at least to a Baylor. City. Oh, okay. Here's another outline. So usually when I do campaigns, I come up with these outlines. And you'll see the colors are based on if they succeeded, if they didn't pursue it, whatever. But it still happens. So that's what I have right here. And this is the full campaign outline. So you'll see some stuff hadn't happened yet. Other stuff has. Obviously the climax didn't. So this one never finished. So that's what I have there. This is game. So I would type up about a page or two for each session of notes. Usually is where they're at, where they're going, if I have a clear idea. Sometimes they don't finish everything here. Sometimes they go off track. So it's funny because I wanted some of the races to react differently to the degeneration thing. Yeah, like you could even have it so they're not necessarily gone. Like dragons might not necessarily be gone. They're just on the brink of extinction. Same thing with as you go on, they become less rare, but it's because of that issue. I could see that being cool. Draxons went full-blown Nazi Spartan on it, killing off kobold children and the eggs of the family that had the kobold, forced sterilizations of those that don't pass magic tests. That's pretty crude. This was the map I originally used for my Pine Run game. It gave an idea of the general area. I've got plenty of locations. There's plenty of places to adventure there. So that was the first good campaign I ran in my homebrew world. Before that, it was all one-shots. And it's centered around Pine Run. This is the main city in Elda, but it's centered around Pine Run. They went to Browerhahn, Sandstrom, and they just basically worked that area the whole time. And there was quite a bit going on. They almost started a war between Pine Run and Sandstrom that was on the brink of happening. I think I'm going to work that in as it did happen, or is in the process of happening. So I'm working on that for the Pine Run area. A bunch of notes here. All these notes right here are from that campaign. So again, stuff that I will definitely use when I write it all out. There's another map for it. I think this one may have been the player's one. Okay, this is funny. I made random encounter charts for Pine Run and the surrounding area. Day 1, a 1 through 6 chart. Day 2, 1 through 6 chart. And a day 3, 1 through 6 chart. So that's kind of interesting. Bunch of notes there. I don't know. I just love the idea of creating something. I don't think I'm alone in that. There's just, because people ask me, well, what's the point of doing all this? What's the point of writing your homebrew world? I just want to create. I love creating. That's why I like being a DM. That's one of my favorite things about D&D is creating something. To give you an idea, I obviously love sports. I'm a big sports fan. One of my favorite things to do when I'm playing a sports video game is to build a team from nothing into something. I like to take either terrible teams, like in football games, like the Browns. I'm a Lions fan, so sometimes I like to take the Lions and turn them into a good team. And not necessarily by playing and winning every game by myself, but building the team and simulating it to see if the team is good enough to be great. That's fun for me. I get the same kind of satisfaction out of world building. So a friend of mine wants there to be a race of Kotal Khans, basically Aztec heart-eating vampires that worship the sun. That sounds pretty cool. I like that. I like that a lot. Look at this. Here's more notes from a game session. Look at all the things I wrote down and scribbled. Most of it's like monster stuff, but yeah, in fact, it's all monster stuff. And then the typed up stuff was my notes. Yeah, that's crazy. Wow, that's great. That was when I actually kept track of XP. I think that led to me not keeping track of XP anymore. Campaign sheet, NPC sheets. Gosh, so much stuff. Pathfinder characters. Yeah, that Pine Run game started as a Pathfinder game, and then 5th edition came out, and we quickly changed. This is the Mystery of the Black Hand. That was a campaign that I've tried running with 3 groups. All of them have enjoyed it. One of them was before I started running Adventures League, and then when we started running Adventures League, we ran what we were supposed to run. So the idea of this is it started off as a group of Black Hand Mystery. Started off as a necromancer who was raising undead, leaving a black handprint on doors of people who were kidnapped. He'd cast a silence spell, walk into the house, kidnap whoever he needed to, usually killed them right there and perform the spell in silence. And then, yeah, took them away. And they would be zombies without hands. And nobody knew what happened to the hands. Well, my players discovered the hands were kept in, they were actually fed to mimics. But the mimics didn't when they'd eat them, they weren't digesting them. And so they would, when they encountered the first mimic in the necromancer's place, when it opened its mouth and came alive, a ton of hands came out. So I took these little tiny D6s and I just went across the board with miniatures. And I said, all of those are hands. And they're all crawling at you. So that was cool. Okay, here's a cool thing I did. So this is my Valley of Endless Caves. It's kind of a thing sort of like the Caves of Chaos or whatever, but it's not. I had a dead Gith in one of these caves that the players managed to get a psychic silver sword. I had a sturge nest, a dead wizard golem, earth elementals, spiders, and dead worm, owlbear cave, manicore's nest, orc caves, mind flayer cave that they never actually went to. Or no, they did. They did go to it, actually. It was a weakened mind flayer, though, because it actually had been found by Gith before. And then you notice up here that dwarven city called Gazimir that was actually, when they came around, it was going to be attacked by dragons. And so they were going to have to either run for shelter or fight. And then the Forest of Neverbright. And the reason it's called that is because the canopy is just so thick. No sunlight comes through. Yeah, I really liked that. That was a fun couple sessions. So I'm excited about that. Can't wait to write about that. The Black Tunnels of Doom. And this is something, so a little thing I use, Donjon sometimes. Donjon, I don't know what it's called. You can do a dungeon generator. Now I did it and I didn't like exactly how it came out. So the black marker hides certain things. Like there's a tunnel here that I got rid of because I didn't want that. I added an entrance that wasn't there. So I took what they gave me and I messed with it. So there's the one that I would let the players see, right? This one has my notes. So In fact, this was the Mind Flayers. There were 2 Mind Flayers, 36 Drow, 16 Intellect Devours, and a Dracolich. So I don't remember what level the party was. It started getting really cold in one hallway. Room of incapacitated living creatures from the valley. 2 ogres, 4 bugbear, 5 hobgoblins, 11 goblins, 7 kobolds, and 1 owl there. The drow that attacked weren't normal drow. They actually were inhabited by intellect devourers. So that was the thing about that. In fact, all the drow, all 36 were actually just intellect devourers inside of them, I think. Which, if you killed the host, the intellect devourers died. So that was cool. That was a fun game. Fun game. I liked that. Oh, that's a good idea too. Put them in Paint Shop. Hey, Paul, welcome. Thanks for joining. I rarely ever play games with XP. Everyone prefer. Yeah, I've switched to Milestone. That one time, trying to keep track of it all, I was like, screw this. Went straight to Milestone after that, and I haven't looked back. The Mimic just gave birth to a ton of undead hands. Have fun. The idea is that it was just holding them in its mouth, and then boom. Almost like a defense mechanism. Thick forests are fun. Yeah, the player. So we didn't even get there. In fact, that was a family game in Grand Rapids before we moved back. And they came out of the Mind Flayer caves, and one of the players was like, I need to take a rest. And when they wanted to take a rest, they noticed a dragon up overhead, swirling, and it was fighting Gazimir. A bunch of dwarves up the mountain. They couldn't see Gazimir yet, but they knew where the steps were. They saw the sign, and then they saw the dragon. But yeah, so Paul says I take dungeon maps and put them in Paint Shop. Then I usually cut up the pieces and lay them out on the table. Oh, that's a good idea. So you print them to scale then. How do you print them to scale? Is there like a percentage or something like that? Well, here's another cool couple sessions. This was 3 sessions. 3 sessions with bullywugs and giant frogs. I've talked about this before. The idea was that the players could get swallowed up by the giant frogs and taken back to the bullywug hideout. Due to being swallowed by the frogs, they would pass out from lack of oxygen, and their gear was going to be taken, and they were going to be put into bone cells. Think of like a very tribal, primitive cage around you that's made of bone. That's what it would be. And gosh, yeah. So anyways, there was that. They did not get swallowed though, and so it ruined the whole plan. Here's another thing. Where did we leave off? Where my players go? Prepping the different scenarios. So again, I made a sheet based on what I normally type up. Milestones rock. Yeah, I prefer milestones. It's just better. It's easier. Nobody gets penalized for whatever. It's better. One of my favorite characters that I made that I haven't had the chance to play yet is an abominable half-breed of pure-blood vampire who are still living, and an incubus. His whole point is trying to get revenge on his grandfather who denied him his right to the family's throne for being not of pure blood. Interesting. Obviously, this was made using a homebrew somewhere else. Yeah, it sounds like you like vampires a lot. I'm cool with vampires. I've had my players encounter them before. The Pine Run campaign, one of our players wanted to be a mute. He also was one of the players who had the most experience. Actually, out of my players, he had the second most experience at the table. And he wanted to play a mute character, which didn't help because we had 2 players who were new to role-playing. And so it kind of, I wouldn't say it sucked because it didn't suck, but it made it difficult because he would try to tell them in combat to do certain things. And I'd be like, dude, they can't hear you. And then I'd turn to them, I say, you got to kind of disregard that. If that's what you would do, that's fine, but you can't do it because he's telling you to. So anyways, we ended up fighting vampires, getting vampire dust, and that was an ingredient to help him get his voice back. I don't remember if we ever did the ritual to get it back, though. I think we did. And I joked that it was a high-pitched voice. He didn't like that. It's mostly because I'm a sucker for necromancy and blood magic. I love the idea of blood magic. There's a PDF that I did not make. It's up on my website. I've gotten the permission of the person who did it. It's in the downloads. It's a sorcerer thing. So if you go to it, it's different sorcerer types. One of them is blood magic. And I love the idea. I think it says you give up your hit dice like all the extra hit dice you can do at short rest to get hit points back. You can sacrifice those to do extra damage with your magic. So I like that a lot. And I've stolen that idea from many games. I've got a book that I gave my player group one time, and I said it's a book of blood magic. And just the idea is if you studied it for long enough, you could do the same thing. Basically, you hurt yourself. So in other words, you get rid of future hit dice for short rests and apply it to magic. Very simple mechanic that I didn't feel like it was game breaking. Plus I watched Blade when I was 4 or 5, so yeah. Okay, that makes sense. I try to match up the tiles on the dungeon maps and make sure everything is correct. It takes a bit of time, but it is usually worth it. Paul, you should come up with a way to do it so you can repeat it quickly and easily without having to fidget with it, and write up a little tutorial. That'd be cool. Something you might be able to give people in like our communities or something. I just love the idea of using health as a resource. It's interesting. Yeah, I think so too. If you can give up your health to inflict damage on something else, I think that's cool. Just it's more for versatility. You can try different things. I like it. More options. This has a lot of cool. So again, more good notes. This was what I was using to keep track of magic items. So with this group, I did it with Adventures League rules. I said, if we get magic items, if you want it, then you can have it. Now, if more than one person want it, whoever has the least amount of magic items gets it. If you have the same amount, you roll for it. And I said that, and you'll just do that. And that was the only way we could keep the group from fighting, and it worked out really well. Now they ended up with some cool magic items, quite a few, quick. But that type of group wanted a more Monty Hall campaign. So, and I'm okay with running that. I have no problem tailoring my games around my players. I tend to like martial characters and things that kind of focus around that a little more. But I have no problem giving in a little bit and giving the players what they want. So I had the idea of a vampire cleric for a homebrew goddess of nobility and death who hated vampires. The cleric didn't want to become one, but was a noble who worshipped her. What is your favorite item you made? Oh, man. A lot of stuff, that's tough. A lot of stuff isn't necessarily made by me. I take inspiration from other things. There was a PDF of a Pathfinder thing of items, like unorthodox treasures. So I've taken that and applied the stuff from it to other things. Ring of Slow Digestion was one of them. Glass orb with an air elemental inside. That was a cool one. And again, I don't even know if some of these are made by me or not at this point. Oh, I had these magic stones that kind of hovered around a player, and you had to be a wizard of some sort. But one could be like a bump to your armor class. One could be to your spell difficulty, and things like that. That was a cool one. A dancing sword, the player had to sing for it to do its stuff. But the thing is you didn't have to wield it then. You could actually use a different sword, and this thing could fly by itself. Basically, it's an animated sword. My Lunar Maul I liked a lot. They hated it because they could only use it at nighttime. A bone sword, I don't remember what that did. I think it was just a sword made out of bone that did something, but I don't remember. A Mace of Speed that allowed an extra attack. A Mace of Healing, but the thing about it is that if it dealt damage, I think it was 1d6 plus 1, but it also did 1d4 healing on the same hit. So you deal the 1d6, but then you roll the d4, and so it kind of countered itself. But the thing is that could still be useful if you're fighting something that can only be hit or hurt by magic. So it might force you to use that. In fact, when I gave it to him, it was really early on. Ring of Mind Shield, Ring of Resistance to Necrotic Damage. So that's all from the one game. The slow digestion was cool. Yeah, but I don't know. From what I created, there's a ring I gave my players of mudslinging. What it did is you could do, you could choose to sling mud, and it forced them to have disadvantage, or everyone to have advantage on attacks if it hit. So that was a cool one, and it forced, in order to get rid of the disadvantage, the enemy had to give up an action to clear their eyes out. So I did like that one a lot. That was probably one of my favorites, because it's a tactical thing that could be really helpful, but at the same time, on the surface, it's like, well, it doesn't deal any damage. And, you know, so for some players, they couldn't wrap their head around it. They didn't like it. But a couple of players were like, actually, that's kind of cool. And it was a goblin weapon. I let the goblins use it first on my players. This is a thing I downloaded. It's an encounter, like, sheet booklet thing, and I think it's 2 pages. Yeah, it's 2 pages. It's a front page like this. It's got a graph down here so you can draw the encounter and stuff. Different features of the area, tactics, creature notes, rewards, story developments, XP, and then turn tracker. And then you have a page of just monster stuff, you know, monster stats. So I printed a bunch of those. That's a cool little tool I used for a little bit. Here's a map that my players did of the Mind Flayer thing. Paul, my favorite magic items I made was a doll that was linked to another player. One arm was marked give, the other was marked take. Oh, one was marked give, the other was marked take. Okay. Each time the character would pull take, it would give the user a gold. Oh, that's interesting. Can't beat the grape sword. But it would take away 1 hit point from the person the doll resembled. If you pull take, it would take the gold coin and return the health to the player. Oh, so it's like a hit point gold economy. That's interesting. I'm writing that one down as we speak. That's interesting to me. Doll. Give. Take. Interesting. I like that. That's an interesting thing. I'm going to steal that. I hope you don't mind. Get 1 GP minus 1 HP. That's very interesting. I like it. I really do like it. I would totally milk that every night before my long rest. Be like, yeah, let's give up all my hit points. Get me down to 1. Let's do this. Or just heal me with your magic and we'll be good. We'll just keep doing this. Herwell Palace, Farwater, sheet. Here's another Luke. Oh, okay. So a magic item that has never been used in my game. I've given it to 2 groups, and it's interesting. It's a Dragon Prod. It's a single-use wondrous item uncommon. The idea, and I can't remember because I don't have the mechanics of it written down. The idea was that you had to heat it up really hot over a campfire, and the person who was going to use it would get branded by a dragon mark. What it would do is it would give them fire breath, just like the Dragonborn ability of fire breath. The issue is you had to make a Constitution save, like 4 rounds, or take the full fire damage. If you fail, you take full. If you succeed, you'd still take half. I gave this to players at low levels. I told them it's like a minute. So you're talking about 10 rounds of 1d6 damage. Obviously, that's up to 60 points of damage with a minimum of 6 points of damage. So it's one of those things that obviously you don't. Oh, and once you started it, you can't finish. Like, you have to either finish or the prod is gone. So it was one of those things that was like, oh, I want this ability. I want to be able to breathe fire in a cone. because it wasn't a straight line. It'd be a cone, 15-foot cone. And like a ton of my players wanted it, and none of them could handle it early on. The player who really wanted it the most, I think, was a sorcerer with low hit points, low constitution. So that was a cool one. I really liked that. I had an enchanted quiver that was cool. Idol of the Running Man. So the Idol of the Running Man is, if you're holding this idol in your hand, you can do extra double movement, basically. The Mud Ring I talked about, an Undead Torchlight. The Undead Torchlight was a skeleton arm attached to a torch. And it basically would shine, trying to remember, I believe it not only lit rooms, but it would, it did something to undead. I can't remember. What did it do? It either kept them away, or it showed you where they were, like it shined further in those directions or something. The vile articles of you crawl, I never defined. My players never found out, so it was okay. Glass pendant with the hole. Breeze coming from the hole. I don't remember what that was for either. So those are a bunch of magic items that another group got. Magic bag can be pretty OP. Heard a story from some friends of mine where they're fighting a boss and losing hella badly. A player thought to use the bag of holding. Interesting. Bag of holding is always a thing of beauty and terror. He pointed the bag at the boss and then punched the bottom of the bag. It regurgitated everything it had and crushed the boss to death. Nat 20s. That's awesome. Oh, so this is one of the very first versions of my homebrew map that I did in Photoshop. Very crude, just to give an idea of where things were. So there's that. I love talking about my homebrew stuff. Or past games. I think that is so much fun. I like hearing about your guys' stuff too. I think it's cool. This had barbarian enemies. So that was interesting. Whoa. Ironhaven was a city. Here's my Gazimir notes. Here's more about Gazimir. So this was... Okay, yeah. This was the whole session I had planned that we never played. We were gonna... Oh, we did play it. We did play it. No, we didn't. We didn't play it because it has no notes. So this was the session. This was the session I had prepped that we never played because we ended up moving. It happened quick. I was offered a job. 2 weeks later, we moved 2 hours away. Iceblade Kingdom, Milena Hill, the Elven City known for fine silks and natural goods. More keep. Here's more prep. So this is, again, a few sessions right here. This was 7/23/2016. So I used XP. It's 3 pages of red text. I don't know why I did it in red, though. I don't know. Oh, because my black ink was not printing correctly. That's right. This was the start of a campaign. Yep, the party is sitting around a campfire just outside of Stonehill Keep, the capital of the continent, most likely deciding to camp because it's cheaper than renting a room. Yeah, so that was my notes for that. I think that was the start of it, or that was also a game that wasn't played. In my game, an NPC gave a bag to a player which was connected to a bank account in a different dimension. It had withdrawal slips and deposit slips. I wish blood magic was more of a thing. I agree. Only stuff I can think that uses it is Dragon Age and League of Legends. I have the Dragon Age RPG. I haven't played it yet. I would love to play that someday. And League of Legends I have not played either. I don't know a lot about that. I've seen people do videos on that. Isn't that a computer game, or are you talking about the actual video game? Is that a video game too? That's a reason why I'm a Vlad main. When filling out deposit slips, it would suck anything that is mentioned mentioned on the deposit slip. If you do a withdrawal slip, it would spit the item out. If you overdraw, then you get cursed to work at the bank for a certain amount of days, depending on how badly you overdrew. That is awful. That's too realistic, man. That's too much like real life. More notes with monsters that they fought. Gosh, I didn't realize I had this many pages of notes from games I've run. Maybe I've run a lot of games of 5th edition. I mean, I know I have, but... Oh, this was a random thing I did with Don John. I don't like what came out of it, but little random stuff. Here's Isben Tavern, also known as the Keystone Tavern. It's hanging over a chasm in the mountains. These are the different levels of it. There was a cult. This whole city was actually run by a cult that they had to escape from. This was underneath it, and they went through some caves to get out, and they saw a giant lizard that killed one of the party members. He wasn't going to be joining us anymore. He tried D&D, didn't really like it. It wasn't his thing. It made him feel uncomfortable with the role playing, so he just felt like it wasn't for him. And so I killed his character the next session. It was fun. I enjoyed killing his character. Well, I implied he was killed. The idea was that he wasn't going to be killed. He was going to come back as a bad guy. He was a gnome wizard named Spectre. This was the map. This is the map I'm actually drawing. This continent right now is on that desk. This is where that campaign was taking place. And yeah, I was really excited about that. You got the glass coast up north. The idea is that ice from the winter washes up on shore, and that's why they call it glass, the glass coast. Yeah, lots of good stuff there. That's one of my favorite parts of my homebrew world right there. I've run like 3 or 4 campaigns up there. Short campaigns. None of them lasted for a long time. This is information about all those cities, because I gave it to them because the idea was they needed to unite them to fight against the 8 Pillars of Death. Some of the stuff they got in that campaign were petrified wood, alchemist fire, dragon pendants, the same item from before, because the other thing was it. Ring of horns from a minotaur. So it was a ring that was on one of the minotaur horns. Advantage saving throw versus spell and spell turning. Potion with a toenail in it. I think that was just a giant strength, like kill giant strength. A book written in abyssal. I think that was the You Crawl, the vile articles of You Crawl. Tinker toy for a gnome. It was a toy dragon. And a potion with fog. And what that did is it was the gaseous form spell. So that was cool. Another map of the same part. I'm almost done with my notes right here. That's crazy. Gosh, more prep notes. These were the players up to level 6. I don't think I updated everything up to level 6, but there they are. Almost through them all, I promise. I promise. City Oakhartmore, Stonehall Keep, prep notes, more prep notes with a lot of NPCs, questions to ask the players, random NPC names. I made a chart based on race and sex or gender. And then, yeah, tavern names, place names, city names, all right there in case I needed something on the fly. So that's all stuff from various games I've run. I've run a lot of games in 5th edition, and all the games I've run have been in my homebrew world. So, yeah, I have a lot of notes. I have a lot of stuff. I plan on, again, putting it all in a readable, understandable format. You can see why it's going to take me a long time. You can see why I think I need to simplify it down to different cities. But yeah, it is a lot. League of Legends is a computer game. It's a MOBA, massive online battle arena. Got to pick one of several characters to play against other players in different game modes. Vladimir is a pretty good blood mage. His main ability steals health from enemies to heal himself. Interesting. His secondary dissolves him in a pool of blood to avoid attacks. His third is a blood explosion that sacrifices his health to deal massive damage to all around him, and his ultimate is a plague that makes enemies take more damage from other sources. His passive is that he scales with both ability, power, magic damage, and health. Every so amount of bonus health increases his ability power. Every so amount of ability power increases health. Later, Paul. That's a lot of notes, bro. Yeah, no, yes. I do hang on to them all. And like I said, I normally have them in these folders. I have a couple folders up here of notes from other, like this is my current campaign. Yeah, this is my current Elven campaign. So I got this. I have my creation rules for the campaign right there. And then, actually, there's a lot of pages right there. I got my character sheets back there. So this one is for my current campaign that I'm really excited to run. Yeah, I don't know. I'm addicted to it. I do take a lot of notes. Oh, shoot. It fell out. I needed that where it was. But yeah, it's just how I am. It's how I run my games. It's what I do. And without me taking a lot of good notes, I get to the table and I usually wing things a bit too much. When I get into a mode where I'm winging most of the session, things don't, they tend to not make sense when I start doing it. Something I wrote in here: scalable magic items, legendary, which begins at low power and levels up with players' characters. That's a note that I wrote a long time ago. It's not an original idea. I don't remember where I got it from. It was not from Matt Mercer from Critical Role, though. I know he did that in his campaign. His campaign module, I think, has stuff like that. And I think he does it in his Critical Role show. I think they have scalable items. I could be wrong, but man, I'm thirsty. But yeah, so I got that from somewhere. I don't know where. Could have been in one of the live chats we originally had. I used to do live chats a lot back around the time 5th edition came out. I'd like to do them some more. I probably will do them some more here. I've enjoyed this. I like talking about my homebrew world. So in fact, I don't want that up there. I want that over here. I love talking about my homebrew world. So maybe as I write different things, I'll do a chat. You know, if I had some, I might even try to do some art for it myself. I'm not an artist though, but just for the heck of it, I may just do some sketches as I finish sections to fill some space as I need it. Plus, it livens it up a little. But I'm not a good artist. If anyone out there is a good artist, or if I know one who would do it for free, let me know. But I don't expect anyone to want to do art for free because it takes a lot of time, and it'd be rude of me to expect that. So I'm in the midst of creating my own system and game. It's interesting because I never thought much about the mechanics that went behind tabletops, so it's a bit enlightening. I became a much better DM over the course of working. Yeah, I have been working on something that see, I have too many projects too. That's the other thing. I have a lot of projects. I get sidetracked really, really easily. Where is it? I have something I started working on a long time ago. Is it down here, maybe? That's my real estate stuff. Okay. I have something I started working on years ago, like 7 years ago. It says create own RPG system ideas. Because I get ideas all the time for stuff like this. Do I ever think they'll be done? No. So new game system, the goal, provide simple but in-depth RPG system that can be used for multiple genres. Fantasy, war, superhero, robots, horror, and apocalyptic. Character creation rules, combat rules, skills, experience and leveling up, weapons, equipment, yada, 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 yada. Character creation. Like, I put a bunch of stuff there. All attributes are going to be 4 through 24. There was intelligence, willpower, strength, agility, stamina, speed. We were going to have mana, hit points, power level 1, 2, or 3. Superpowers, natural abilities, magic, psionics, etc. Skills, combat skills, how combat worked, which I've got all these notes right here. Like, it's nothing good, nothing terrible, but it just wasn't. When I started this, 5th edition wasn't out. Most of my experience was with Palladium books. 2nd edition D&D. I had read some other books, but experience in leveling up, superpowers, abilities, yada, yada, yada. And then homebrew world background. And then just a bunch of other junk. Again, nothing exciting at all, to be honest. I thought about trying to pick up the mantle of doing that again as like just a fun little project to just do something. At the time, in fact, I was going to do videos about learning how to do it as well. And, it just isn't, I don't think I'm passionate about creating a system right now. I think for me right now, it's homebrew world. I think it's been that too for a long time. I got too many of my own ideas, really. Yeah, you kind of got to pick. I mean, if you get another idea, write it down or put it into like Notepad or something and keep it. Maybe one day you'll come back to it. But yeah, it's hard. What I'm working on currently is a psychological horror that is like the combination of Silent Hill and Persona. I got a couple of fantasy I want to work on. I got a sci-fi one I want to work on. Yeah, it's a lot. Horror games don't appeal to me. I've played Call of Cthulhu once, and it's just not my thing. I used to like scary movies when I was younger, like even as an adult, and as I get older, I'm just not as into them. It doesn't help that none of them scare me. I don't know. They don't do anything for me anymore. I can watch a slasher flick for fun, but besides that, I'm not into horror. But yeah. Anyways, it's about 10:45, so I'm gonna wrap this up. But I was on here a lot longer than I expected, so that's cool. I do hope you guys had fun. I know I enjoyed talking about it, and I will probably do this more often. Maybe in the future I'll bring someone on too to talk with me and to talk with you guys. I think that'll be fun, like some guests or something. So if you liked it, just give me a little like. I'd appreciate it. And if you feel like sharing it in any of your RPG groups or social communities, that's cool too. So anyways, I'll read your last comment. Well, this one is all about trying to resist a sentient universe that abuses your pleasures, desires, wants, etc., to entrap you in it forever. And to keep yourself sane, you have to traumatize yourself, but you got to balance it. Lose too many times, you lose. Win too many times, you lose. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that would work for me. I've liked all your ideas. I don't know about that one. I just don't think it would appeal to me. I don't think I'm the target audience there. But I mean, I would try it. I would ultimately try anything, as a one shot. And who knows, maybe it would work. I've played games that I wasn't. I'll tell you this. Savage Worlds is a game that on the surface and from everything I heard, I thought I would love. And then I've played a bunch of games of it and it just doesn't appeal to me. It's not a system I really enjoy that much. I like some of the stuff that's come out for it, but unfortunately the mechanics don't work for me. So that's my take on that. Palladium. I hear what everyone says negatively about it, and I agree with everything they say. However, for me, it's an easy system because I came up on that. I like the system. I mean, obviously, I tweak it. I homebrew stuff, mechanics and things, but I still like that system. I like the setting. That's a good game. It's fun for me, especially the superhero version of it. Like, I like that it's not balanced. That's like one of everyone's biggest gripes. Pathfinder system. I liked what I read. I liked all the material. When it came down to putting it to work and playing, I did not like that. It was too clunky, too many rules, too many things you had to look up in the middle of the game. That bothered me. 2nd edition is good. I like it. In that, I'm a little bit able to give up control to DMs more. But I liked that. Adventures in Middle Earth, I like that system. I'm not sure if we played it correctly, I just played it and I didn't run it. I haven't spent that much time reading the rules, but I enjoyed playing it. And then 5th edition. I love 5th edition. Fantasy Age and Dragon Age, I've read. In fact, I've almost read the full Dragon Age book. I've read all the way through, like, I don't know, probably 3/4 of that book, through some of the monsters, but I've read like most of that book. It looks fun. Obviously, it's very similar, almost exact to Fantasy Age, but I've never played it, so I don't know. Yeah, Pathfinder is really clunky. There's, again, 3.5, and Pathfinder had a lot of rules. Savage Rifts, a lot of people, or Savage Rifts, Savage Worlds. Savage Rifts is the same as Savage Worlds, really. But Savage Worlds, I think my gripe is that it didn't live up to the expectations because everyone said how easy the system is and how intuitive and these things. And none of that is true, in my opinion. It's just my take. It's fun. I've had a lot of fun playing it. Luckily I've played with people who knew the rules. I know some of the rules, but there's like situational things. I don't like the cards for initiative. And then like, there's certain things I just don't like about that. There's things I like about the system, but there's things I don't as well. That's why it's not my favorite. I think the easiest game for me to just sit down and just get into a game and play without worrying about mechanics is hands down 5th edition D&D. There's nothing that I've played that is as simple to just start up playing and play. Even with new players, it's just, this is what you do. You always roll a d20 for anything you're going to roll except for damage. That's it. Like, how simple is that? You will always roll this one die, except if you succeed, then you would roll this or whatever. That's just the simplest thing you can explain. Savage Worlds, you always roll a d6, but you also roll whatever the die is for what you're doing. And it's a different die depending on where you put your skills and your attributes and things like that. And that just is messed up. And there's math. A lot of people don't know. It's like, oh, you explode dice. Okay, 6 explodes into, I rolled another 6. I'm up to 12. Oh, but over here I exploded an 8. So 8 plus that. Which one's higher? Oh, that one. Okay. You're always trying to remember what you rolled over here and totaled up as you're adding this up as well. So you're doing 2 things at once, which, again, just doesn't appeal to me. I think it's a well-designed system, though. Don't get me wrong. Savage Worlds is a good system. There's a lot of people out there who have played it. In fact, most people I know who have played it liked it. You ever tried this one Cyberpunk game that I played at one point? It was a weird system. I don't know. Probably not. I've never played really any Cyberpunk. Yeah, I've never really played any Cyberpunk, really. Rifts is probably the closest thing. Yeah, there's what, Shadowrun? Is that what it is? I've never played it. I have a demo of it somewhere that I got from Free RPG Day. But yeah, so anyways, I'm going to bounce. It's getting late. For me, it's about 11 o'clock, and last night I could not sleep, so I'm going to try and get some sleep. But I had fun. I enjoyed talking about this. Hopefully you'll join me next time, and we'll talk some more. Did you join me from... Where did you see this? Was this on Facebook, or did you just see it on YouTube, and that's why you jumped in? I'm just curious, because I posted it in like 2 or 3 places on Facebook, and then all of a sudden some people came over. So I think that's where I drew people from, but I'm just curious. Twitter, cool. I didn't know it shared there. That's awesome. Cool. Well, all right, yeah, hopefully I'll do another one soon, and I enjoyed it. Again, I'll do more. If you have any questions, just post it, on Facebook or Twitter. Just feel free to ask, and I'll make a list. And next time I do a video, I'll answer them. I enjoy it. It's more fun when people are actually going back and forth. It's more like a conversation, so it makes it a lot easier. So, anyways, thanks again. I'll talk to you later, man. Peace.